Okay, so now in this tutorial we're going to continue with motion effects and working with keyframes. And as you can see, we still have here the other title that we manipulated using our basic properties here under motion, position, scale, and rotation. So now we're going to go ahead and make a copy of that title, because I'm going to show you a different way to manipulate those properties, which I think can be a little bit more user-friendly. So first, let's come up here to the project panel, and we're going to make a copy of that title so we can work on it independently and not alter the properties on our first title. Okay, so I'm going to come up here to the project panel where I have hello highlighted, and again, I'm always clicking on the icon, not on the word. If you click on the word, it's like you're going to retype the name. So click on the icon and it highlights that clip. So I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to say duplicate. By doing that, it makes a copy, which is a separate standalone copy of that clip. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag that down to the timeline, just put it next to the other one, and I'm going to drag my mouse over it. I'm going to select it, and because I still have my effects control panel open, I see now inside that clip. And of course I haven't done anything to it, so you don't see any effects generated. So now, similar to the way I approached the other one, I'm going to drag my playhead all the way back to the beginning over here in the little timeline area so that it positions it at the head of the clip. And then I'm going to go ahead and still activate my little stopwatches, or toggle animation switches as Premiere likes to call them. But this time, instead of setting the values here on these hot text fields, I'm going to use this command right here, and it says motion and it's got a little icon next to it. I call this the transform tool, which is something similar to what you have in programs like Photoshop, etc. So when you click on the word motion and it highlights the word motion with this gray area, look over here at your text, and now you have like this bounding box similar to what we had in the titler when we highlighted text. Here though, it's called a wireframe, and what this does is it allows you to literally grab the text by clicking and dragging and now doing whatever you want with it. So here, for example, since I'm moving it in different areas of the screen, I'm adjusting its position, and as I do this, notice over here as my values change. So if simply I just have to think about where do I want to start my move. So let's do a similar move to before. I'm going to click and I'm just going to drag this box, and then I let go of my mouse, reposition my mouse, click again and drag, and I can push it off screen. What's nice is I can actually physically see where it is. I don't have to know the values, it'll just automatically calculate those values. So that's my first position. So now let's say I'll drag my mouse forward a little bit to designate the next place, or how much further into this clip I want the next position to be. So now I simply grab it, move it over to where I want it to go. So let's say I want it to go to the center, and when I let go, it adds a keyframe. So this is I think sometimes a more intuitive way to do this. And then what happens is you see a path right here. You see this dotted line. That becomes what's known as your motion path. So let me come back over here and notice how I click in my effects control, and I'm going to hit my spacebar to play that back. When it plays it back, it doesn't show you the path, but you can see the move. If you click on the playhead, then you can still see it sitting on that path. Okay, so this is a really nice, I think, way to reposition, and we're going to do scale in just a second, but let me show you one other thing. Since we started, I'm going to snap back to that first keyframe. We started off screen here. If I want to see more of this gray area, right, the display area, the area that's actually going to be visible is this black area. Let me click on that again over here. And then the gray area is actually off screen. If I want to see more of that gray area, I can come down here and change what's known as what I display. Well, let me go back to fit, which is the default, and you can see that's filling the screen. That's filling the area that I can see, and I can still see that box even though the text is off screen. I can select a smaller view so that my visible area gets reduced simply on display, but I can see more of the gray area. If I hit 10%, I see even more of that. So I'm going to keep this at 25 so I can just see that outer area, just to give me a sense of where that clip is in relation to the display area. So now, going back to the original, I'm going to say, let's see, on scale I'm at 100%. I'm going to go ahead and use this keyframe in position to snap back to that second position frame. And for scale, I'm going to make it bigger. So now instead of dragging the number here, I'm going to bring my mouse over on the corner of one of these of the wireframe, click, and I'm going to drag out like I did in the titler. So it's very similar to the type of movement you did in the titler. I'm going to make it nice and big so it becomes like, over 200%. Okay? So now it adds a keyframe. As soon as I let go, I add a keyframe. So this is what you need to know. With this activated, whenever you move this box, it will change the value or add a keyframe. So right there, I just changed the keyframe from that second position. So I'm going to Control Z, Apple Z if I'm on a Mac, and set it back. If I now move my playhead somewhere else, and then I grab this wireframe and do a move like this where I push it up, it adds another keyframe. There it actually added a bit of a curve to it, so it's going to sort of come up and then down. Okay, so keep that in mind. That is a way whether you wanted to do it or not. If you didn't want to do that, then you could just come right back, click on that actual keyframe that you just added in the timeline area, and you can delete it, and you go back to your original move, which may or may not be what you want. Now, for rotation, I'm going to snap back again to these last two keyframes, and over here in rotation, I can also rotate it here. I can grab the corners and I can rotate it like this. But in this case, I'm going to do like several rotations. I'm going to Control Z to get rid of that command, the 0 to put that rotation back to 0. So I'm just going to type in 720. So it's going to give me 2 rotations. So now essentially I'm doing this very similar move to what I did before. I think my text might be a little bigger, but I approached it with a different technique. And you can see that as long as that motion transform tool is highlighted, when you stop playing back or when you're in pause, you can see the bounding box. Okay, so let's say if I go back down to 10%, then I can see it there around the clip. So this is another nice way to manipulate it, especially position. It's really helpful for positioning because you can just literally grab that box, move it around, place it, add a keyframe, reposition your playhead, move the box again, and it adds a keyframe in that position. So it's a real nice way to see what you're doing, and then you also get the motion path so you can see the direction that it's going. More on that in the next tutorial.